Thank you very much for being here this morning.
Thanks for having me.
You just heard the big reports there from Chris out in Lebanon, also from Eamon Javers. Is there a real sense right now that Iran, in trying to contemplate a possible retaliation, would ever want to take the United States on head-on?
I don't think people are expecting Iran to take the U.S. head-on. I think what you're more likely to see is some sort of a proxy action on the part of the Iranians. The Iranians have a lot of proxies around the region, in Syria and Lebanon and other places. And what they've shown is that they can use those proxies to attack not just the U.S., but other countries such as Israel in the region. They also have very good cyber security capabilities, so you'd have the possibility of a cyber attack. But I think they're also, and this is important, I think they're also benefiting already from that uncertainty that you just heard about. The fact that the markets don't really know how to react, the fact that we don't really know what their next step is already benefiting the Iranians. It's already raising the stakes in the region.
What's curious about the market reaction that you refer to, we look front and center at oil, because oil is obviously a big commodity class that's very tied to the Middle East. Yet the oil markets didn't even respond that heavily to the assassination of Qasem Soleimani. What exactly does that suggest about whether or not Iran will use oil as a weapon or supplies as a weapon if this actually gets escalated?
Well, remember, Dominic, that in September, when we had the strike against the Saudi oil refineries, oil prices went up by about 14% in one day.
18% for Brent.
Well, and so immediately or shortly thereafter, they came down because the world realized that, first of all, we have excess capacity. There's a lot of excess capacity around the world. And also, the U.S. is a net exporter. And so I think what you're seeing in terms of the oil market is the realization that short of an all-out war, I think the oil market should remain stable. However, you do have the risk that the 20 to 30% of the oil that flows through the Strait of Hormuz will in fact be blocked or endangered by the Iranians. You have that risk. But overall, I think the markets are going to remain fairly confident that oil supplies will continue.
Jose, you were a man that sat behind those doors when negotiations and deliberations were happening about policy in the Middle East under a former president's administration. What kinds of conversations are happening right now in your mind within the Trump administration and in the halls of Congress about how the U.S. would want to proceed, given what we already know about Iran?
I think there's a fair amount of uncertainty on both sides. There's an uncertainty on the part of the U.S. in the sense that people either in Congress or even in Iran don't really know what the U.S. goals are. What is our policy? Are we looking for regime change? Are we looking to get Iran to stop supporting its proxies in other countries? What is it that we're aiming for? And that creates an uncertainty that leads to a potential risk that people will just step over the line. And I think that's probably the reaction that you're seeing in Congress. In the U.S. government, I mean, you're seeing that in some ways policy, not surprisingly, is being led by Trump, who is threatening Iraq, a country where we have spent billions of dollars in the last 17 years and lost thousands of lives. We're threatening them with making them pay for the bases. We're threatening them with sanctions, Iraq. And so I think there's a fair amount of uncertainty. A lot of this, hopefully, some of the smoke will clear in the next few days. But I think right now what you have is folks waiting for Trump to decide what it is, what the end goals are, and then react.
All right, so given all of the uncertainty and the hypotheticals, what then does become the biggest risk for investors given the current situation between the U.S. and Iran?
Well, clearly the risk of an all-out war is there. I actually don't think the Iranians will cross that line. I think the risk that you're seeing now is the uncertainty. And I think that will continue. And again, I think it's important to keep in mind that the Iranians benefit from that uncertainty. The stakes around the world, economic decisions are being affected by what's going on now. And as long as that continues, I think all of us in the Western world will pay a price.